Welcome to today's special meeting for Monday, November 1st, the year 2010. Let us rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call of attendance.
Present. Present. Present.
Present.
Garcia.
Present.
Orange.
Present.
Maldonado. Parks.
Present.
Medina.
Present. Today's special meeting, we have one ordinance on third reading. We have three separate resolutions. Madam Clerk, ordinance on third reading.
Ordinance number 10-0013, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland.
So move on third and final reading, Mr. President.
Second. Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia to hear on third and final reading, ordinance number 10-0013. Properly second by Councilman Franciski. Questions on the motion? Councilman Garcia.
Mr. Bennett.
Your name and title, sir.
James Bennett, Financial Advisor, City of Chicago.
Has there been any changes to this since our last council meeting?
No, there have not. None that I'm aware of been submitted, no.
Thank you.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes, Mr. Sender. Reference to
Name and title, sir.
Carl Sender, Financial Advisor for the Council.
reference to questions they answered. Are you satisfied with all those answers they gave you?
Well, we haven't really had a chance to go through all the answers. We did prepare a summary of what was spent out of the gaming fund, as well as some of the miscellaneous controllers account out of their department, and we've handed that out for your review. I think we're still concerned about, what the tax collections are going to be for the rest of this year and what cuts, but, hearing from Mr. Bennett that, that they plan to move some of the expenses around yet between now and the end of the year. He's confident that can bring it into balancing the general fund this year. So, we can't really control what's going to happen between now and the end of this year. I think what you've heard from the mayor at last week's meeting, that they will be, his administration will be looking at the budget for next year and coming back with some suggested changes. I don't know what time, but into the future. So, we've got the responses, and I think you have some information. It's not a lot to really come back and say, hey, these are the changes that need to be made. We're told that those will be coming later. So.
Are there any red flags?
I don't think that I've seen any red flags yet, but again, we haven't done a lot, depending how much further digging you want us to do with some of the questions that were raised and then some of the reports that we've been given. I think there's more questions that need to be asked, and we probably need to work together with the new mayor to come up with, what some of the expenditures are for.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Orange.
Mr. Sender, if we pass the budget as it is today and we give the mayor a chance, because that was one of the big questions, that he hadn't had a chance to go over everything in the budget and look at, and of course he came in during the hearings, and that's unfortunate. But what recourse does this council have in 2011 if he does not do what he said he's going to do?
Well, I think options at the council that you have is you certainly, if you feel that there are places in the budget that we need to make reductions or changes, you can come back and make those recommendations. And one process is through a de-appropriation process, and that's very similar to like an additional appropriation or the budget hearing we're having now, but it's where you're formally requesting to delete some of the appropriations. I think that would be an option the council would have next year if for some reason the administration isn't proposing changes and this council isn't happy, with those changes or lack of changes. So I think that's an option you have next year.
Even down to eliminating departments, or do we have that right as a council to? Or just
I'm not
keep-
sure about eliminating departments. That would be something we'd have to look into and maybe explore with your attorney as to whether or not you could eliminate a department. I mean, it seems like it's now something in effect. I'm not sure who has that standing to do at this point, but you certainly could reduce or eliminate, I suppose, some of the expenditures for a department.
Thank you.
Councilman Ventura.
Mr. Sender, I don't know if this is something you can answer, or I know Mr. Bauer's not here, but with the gaming money, can we come back and reappropriate some of the gaming funds?
I think just like any other item, if there are places in the gaming funds you want to make transfers from one line item to another, I think you have that right to come back to make those changes. But if you adopt the budget as it's presented, you're adopting the budget as it's being presented today.
Any further questions? Councilwoman Orange.
Mr. Bennett? Is the mayor already looking at some change? I'm sure you're not going to tell us what he's looking at, but is he already looking for changes in 2011?
Yes, he is. I think he's been reviewing department by department, and then we've been reviewing the bigger picture items. And I know we're going to sit frequently and go through each one, and I would say that early next year he'll be making some pretty, he'll be making some recommendations on how we can reduce the budget or how we can amend the budget. So I would believe that that would be coming through. He is working on that as we speak.
Councilman Santos.
Mr. Bennett, has the mayor and the administrative body have started to eliminate some positions as well as some contractual services?
Yes, they have.
So they're starting already?
Right.
Okay.
Each contract, as I understand, it's being reviewed, and I believe that there are some that have already been canceled now, so know that I think some positions have been eliminated or changed.
Mr. Bennett, in the future, I would hopefully within the next 3 or 4 weeks, maybe we can get a update or a review on how those process, how much money we're saving, and what's actually going to be going back to bridge the gap, because we've talked about 13, 15, 18. We need to start to bridge that gap, and we need to understand how's the administrative body going to move forward, and how are they going to help bridge the gap, and we'd also would like for you to, any information that you're going to provide to City Council also to provide to Mr. Sender, because as you very well know, they work for us, and they've been having some trouble getting some of the information, and hopefully we're going to bridge a gap there. So,
Well, I think if Mr. Sender would contact me with any information requests, I mean, if he wants to make it formal through the Controller's office and get me a copy of it, I would hope to expedite getting whatever information necessary.
Councilman Ventura.
I remember years ago, you used to come before the council to spend the gaming money.
Pardon?
You used to come before the council to get the authority to spend the gaming money. You used to do that years ago.
We have to do that.
Okay, so to spend the gaming money, you have to come before us. When
Right.
are you going to do that?
It's there, it's in your budget right now.
Are you saying this is going to be done today? Or we approve the budget?
Right.
Can we come back and change some of this line items if we want?
I would think that once this budget's adopted and sent to the state's going to require changes in it anyway. So I'm sure that we will be back to the council with those changes. If at that point you can amend it.
But what was the difference before? Before you will come specifically
No,
with gaming revenues?
I think in 2005, I believe, was the first year that we did that. The prior administration did not do this. The prior administration didn't appropriate gaming, they just spent it. What we did was said that, if you'll remember, there was two different gaming funds. There was a fund that they believed that the mayor could just expend at will, and then there was the gaming money that came from the state, which in some cases was partially appropriated. I don't think it was all appropriated. When we came, I believed that all gaming money had to be approved by the council, so we then consolidated it into one fund, and then we brought it to you and appropriated it. I think that in the first year or the second year, we waited to bring that until like March or April. Well, there had been some expenditures out of a fund by then. And there was criticism both by the Board of Accounts that the council had not approved it, and so in 2000, I believe it was 7, we started including the gaming budget as part of the budgeting process, so it would all be done at the same time. And so I think we've done that every year since then.
Councilwoman Orange?
Do you think we're going to still have the same number at the end when you send it downstate, or how much will the state take off of the budget that's been prepared?
I believe that the state will do the calculations basically that Carl and I have been doing. I mean, they're going to do similar calculations based on what they believe the collection ratios will be based on the cap, and they'll make cuts. I mean, they won't make cuts. What they'll do is they'll make a dollar amount reduction that you're required to make and give back to them. And at that point, we'll be back to the council. By then, hopefully, we'll have a plan in place based on the numbers that we've come up with, and we'll have a plan in place so that when that happens, that could happen as early as the law requires that they certify tax rates by February 15th. Because of the reassessment problems and the problems with certifying AV, they have not done that for several years. So that's why we're so far behind. But I would think this year the state would, the county I know is certified early. I would think that probably by March or April that we would have certification from the state with the required reductions. But I think before that comes, we will have had in place pretty much what we need to do for 2011.
And you'll be bringing that information back to the council?
Yeah, absolutely,
so that we
yes.
can find out.
Councilman Santos?
Mr. Bennett, were you able to look into the state's insurance fund? I remember we talked about that a little bit the last meeting, and I know you said it could be plus or minus. Do we ever look into that?
To be honest with you, Councilman, I have not had the time, but we certainly have that on our list of things to do. Okay. And I think we have inquired into that, but I haven't heard anything back from that yet.
Okay.
Mr. Bennett, what percentage are we anticipating for tax collection?
Well, if I could explain, there's actually two numbers. If you look and say, what is your collection going to be to the maximum levy we could collect, we're probably in the 70% collection ratio. If you talk about, or less. If you talk about what I believe are the maximum we can collect under the cap, then I think we'll be in the low 90s.